Evening. Gosh, we have a nice full house tonight. See, we're on TV, so I can say anything I want. They don't look out there. So the 100 or so people that are here, I'm pleased you came. And I want to tell you that we are in our regular council meeting in the chambers of Prospect Heights. And we're located at 8 North Elmhurst in Prospect Heights, Illinois. And if I miss something, I'll get it later. Let's call the order and have a roll call for quorum.
Okay. Alderman Rosenthal?
Here.
Alderman Messer? Here. Alderman Dolek?
Here.
Alderman Williamson?
Here.
And
Alderman Ludwigson, by prior arrangement, will not be here. We need a quorum of 3. We have a quorum of 4, so we're in good shape. We can move on.
Yes.
Pledge of Allegiance, please, by Chief Jim Zalaki.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, we have a dual setup today. For the invocation, we have Betty Cloud, who's right there, and you'll also be up after that. So, Commissioner at St. Alphonsus Liguori Church, thank you for coming this evening.
Thank you, sir. I would ask that you please bow your head in prayer. Dear wise and loving Father, first, let me say thank you on behalf of all who are gathered here today. Thank you for your many and abundant blessings. Thank you for life itself and for the measure of health that we need to fulfill our calling. Thank you for the ability to be involved in useful work and for the honor of bearing appropriate responsibility. Therefore, I pray for our mayor, for the various level of city officials, and in particular for this assembled council. I am asking that you would graciously grant them the ability to work together in harmony, even though there may be honest disagreement. I pray for the agenda today set before us. Please give us an assurance of what you would please, that we would be benefit for those who would live and work in around the city of Prospect Heights. It is your most blessed name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. Let me interject that the meeting began at 6:37, and we are in session. All right, let's move on with the approval of minutes. Or are we going to invocation? We had an invocation, approval of minutes. Okay. Who's going to call for a,
Motion to approve?
and a second? We have a motion, we have a
Mayor,
second.
there was one non-substantive change that was made that Alderman Messer pointed out, and we changed the name of the minutes from executive session to budget meeting.
Okay, for that particular meeting, thank you. With the change, vote for an approval, please. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We have the next one at March 12th, regular workshop meeting. Motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion, corrections, changes, or additions? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, presentations, appointments, and confirmation and proclamation. We are reappointing Sharon Hoffman to the Fire and Police Commission. She served her initial term, or is it the second term, Peter, that she's been on already? Sharon Hoffman,
This is her second term.
second term. All right, thank you,
And she
Sharon.
could not be here today. She's at a meeting in
All right.
Chicago.
All right, so we need a motion to approve the appointment, reappointment of Sharon Hoffman.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Item B, reappointment of Betty Cloud to the Chicago Executive Airport Board of Directors.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'd like to quickly point out that we've received requests from these people to be reappointed. We're just not swinging a baseball bat here. Reappointment of William Kearns to the Chicago Executive Airport Board as of directors.
Motion to approve?
Second, we have a motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Item D, reappointment of John Tamman to the Planning Zoning Board of Appeals. Motion,
So moved.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
All right, Joe, you want to take it from there?
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Do we have any citizen concerns, comments?
We do not.
Okay. Brings us to item 9, staff elected officials and commission reports. And for this meeting, we have a report from Prospect Heights Board member Betty Cloud for Chicago Executive Airport.
Mr. Mayor, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. The airport fiscal year 19 budget we've had our workshop and has been approved by the Board of Directors. I've heard today that City Council should have it by your April 9th meeting, so you'll be receiving it very shortly. Mark your calendar for this year's Rock and Run on Saturday, June the 30th. It is always held the Saturday before the 4th of July, which falls on a Wednesday this year. It's kind of throwing things off a little bit. Registration has already started. The fireworks and the food trucks will also be on that same day, again, Saturday, June the 30th. The architects and construction managers are currently working on floor plans and building designs for the U.S. Customs facility. This is our number one, not only request, but it's mandated by the government. The airport board expects to see plans at the April meeting. You are all very welcome to join us and to take a look at the plans at the same time we do. Hawthorne has received their foundation permit from the Village of Wheeling and are breaking ground hopefully within this week, and that is on the Old Charlie pad. The airport will be holding an aviation job fair on Thursday, March the 29th, at the airport maintenance facility from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. The goal is to reach out to the surrounding community seeking employment and to find the different interests that are available within the aviation career field. Our joint meeting will be set for either June the 30th or June 20th. I'm sorry, 13th or the 20th. They're both on Wednesdays. Dinner will be at Saranello's, and also the meeting will be held at the Westin Hotel. As soon as that information is available, we are taking a poll today to see if we want to do both meetings on the same day as we did last year, or if we want to split our regular board meeting 1 week and then the joint meeting. But the mayor should have the information probably by the end of this week. Any questions that you may have for CEA?
Joint meeting is on the 13th, you
It'll
said?
either be the 13th, Mayor, or the 20th, and you'll know this week.
Okay.
It's
Any
just a case of
questions,
doing
please?
both the same night or splitting them 1 week apart.
Any questions, please?
None for me.
Alderman Dolick?
No questions, thank you.
No question.
Alderman Rosenthal, Alderman Messer? I have a question. You know, some time ago, we found out that the airport funds that flow to the city will more than likely not continue in that manner. We, several of us asked if we could get a clarification from your attorney at the through the directors from Hinshaw and Culberson. His name is, what's your attorney's name?
It is Tom Lester.
Okay. So we haven't received that. That's been like 8 weeks or 7 weeks.
Certainly, I'll check on that, Mayor. For the January meeting, State Senator David Harris was there and gave a full presentation on the whole thing, and we had invited the council. We would have loved for them to have been there because he's the one that has put the bill in front of the state of Illinois, and he's the one that is just so well-versed in it. But I will be more than glad to follow through, get information for you, and you'll have it this week.
All right. The reason we asked for it is because we were assured 2 years ago that we were grandfathered in and we wouldn't have to worry about it. Even the new bill suggests, from what I read, that the money would stay with the airport rather than funneling through. And it means about $150,000 to us, rather than funneling it through to the municipalities, both Wheeling and us. And we never got any clarification on where was this reassurance coming from. Someone ought to say, well, we didn't read it right, or we misunderstood it, or something. Something should come, and should be on his letterhead, please.
Not a problem at all, sir. And I also had the information from State Senator Harris that I will try to make copies of, but you'll definitely have something this week that you can pass out then to the council.
All right, thank you. Anyone else, please, again? There being none, thank you for
Thank
your
you.
evening, both as chaplain and as reporter from the Chicago Executive Airport. Thank you. All right, Joe?
We also have the February Treasurers Report from Finance Director Mike Ducharme.
The February Treasurers Report was distributed. We're in we're in relatively stable condition through the end of February. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions you might have related to the report.
Questions, please? Alderman Williamson? Where are you? There you are. Alderman Dolick?
No questions. Thank you.
Alderman Rosenthal?
No questions.
And Alderman Messer? No questions. Michael, I do have a question. There's been some talk at council level that we are looking forward to a time to come, maybe soon, maybe later, that we will have a different look of reserve funds and unbudgeted money being necessary to run this group, our city. You and I spoke, and you, I think, indicated that you're referring to mostly the possibilities of a capital plan and the cost of that plan. You want to enlighten us on that issue?
Well, always the concern is, in the past, there has not been a complete capital program that has been presented to the council. So it is important that we get our hands around the fact of what it's going to take on an annual basis to fund a complete capital program, and to know that we have the resources to fund it. As it stands right now, I think it is fairly easy for us to cover the operating expenses of the city of Prospect Heights. But when you look at the sizable capital expenses, not only from the street resurfacing side, from a vehicle standpoint, those are the costs that I know I need to get a better handle on going forward, so that I'm comfortable in the capital program that's presented to you.
Someone help me, because I don't remember. We received $100,000 in grant for, Joe, what was that money used for? Is it still here? From Alderman Williamson, help me out. The $100,000 we received for a study about a capital plan, is that what that was for? This was 4 years ago.
I don't recall, sorry.
All right, I'll have to,
Mayor, it might have been comprehensive plan.
okay.
Yeah.
And where's that money? How
Well,
does it factor in?
that's been spent, and the product has been adopted by the council, if that's the one I'm thinking of, because that was
You're right,
4 years
you're
ago.
right,
So it's-
yeah. Okay.
If I
Yes,
can chime in, and I think he's exactly right, it was a comp plan. But Michael, if you're looking for information on roads and costs and stuff, I'm intimately familiar with it, and we can talk, and I can give you a better idea of what those costs are.
Mr. Mayor, the
Yes, sir.
Strategic Directions Committee took their comprehensive plan and operationalized it and set up certain parameters, which we are moving forward on. And periodically, I think we're due as a council for an updated plan, update on where we are in implementing the plan.
All right.
But we, usually the committee had said we should get that, we, the council, should get that maybe every quarter to see where we are.
All right, good.
I think, Joe, we're due for sometime before now and the end of June.
All right, good, we're moving along, I gotta say that. Where are we? consent agenda?
Yes, sir.
We're going to,
Oh, well, there's also reports of council members.
Yeah.
okay, let's back up to that. Go ahead. Council member report. We'll take everybody in line here. Michael, anything you want to add?
Nothing to add.
Okay, and then coming down the line, Peter?
Peter Falcone, Assistant to the City Administrator. I'd just like to remind everybody out there that this is the last week to purchase your vehicle stickers and pet licenses before penalties are imposed. You can buy your vehicle stickers here at City Hall, or you can go online and conveniently renew your vehicle stickers and pet licenses through our website, through Express Bill Pay. No further report, sir.
Good evening, Director Dan Peterson, of Building Development Department. Want to update the community. The Planning Zoning Board of Appeals distributed information related to the commercial truck ordinance. After the subcommittee had met a couple of times, the public hearing for that meeting to the PZBA will be on Wednesday, April 25th. There was a scheduling issue, so we moved it up one night to April 25th. Information has been put out online. We have copies of it here in City Hall, and if anybody would need a copy sent to them, we can arrange that. If you would email or call the building department, we'll get that information out. Thank you.
All right, as a reminder, Dan, a committee was formed, made up of the public, and two of your members are the PZBA members. Is that correct?
Correct. In January, the PZBA met. There was a lot of community turnout for that evening. A committee, based on the discussion, was formed with members from the audience, two members of the Chairman Dash and Chairman Patel from the ZBA and staff. The committee met on two different occasions to go through each of the recommended changes, and they did make amendments and recommendations that will be presented to the PZBA at the April 25th meeting.
And the meetings happened.
Both of those meetings happened, one at the end of February, one at the first part of March. Last week at the PZBA meeting, we informed the public again of those and handed out the information to make sure that the public had all the current information that was developed by the subcommittee in preparation for the public hearing.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you. Alderman Messer?
I have no report. I just want to wish everyone a happy and blessed Easter and Passover, both of which are coming up this weekend.
Clerk Wendy?
City Clerk Wendy Morgan Adams, I will ditto that and wish everybody a happy Easter and happy Passover.
City Administrator?
No report, sir. Thank you.
All right, moving on down the line. Karen Schulteis, please.
Deputy Clerk Karen Schulteis, just for the board and other members, that if you have a statement of economic interest, if it was sent to your email address, you need to fill it out before May 1st.
All right, let's make a note on that. I don't think I received a notice, but maybe I
Yeah,
didn't.
they said they sent it to your personal email.
Oh, okay, I'll check it. Alderman Rosenthal?
I have a couple of things. I want to give a quick update on what the Strategic Directions Committee is going to be doing between now and the April workshop. Dan Peterson and I are going to be meeting with our consultant later this week to review the work of the committee thus far in developing a conceptual plan for the, and specifications for the city center, getting his review and evaluation of it, and then making any final adjustments that we have to make. At the April workshop, I've requested a position on the agenda for the committee to make its report and recommendations to the council going forward with the plan. And then on a couple of other items, I met, I think it was last week, with representatives of the leadership of the Natural Resources Commission. Those of you who were in attendance at one of the budget meetings, I don't remember which one it was now, or if it was the workshop, I had made the recommendation, we talked about the slough, and I think it was the workshop, because we were talking about Hillside Lake at that point. I had made a comment and suggestion that we, as the council, maybe look into making those resources and attractions that we have within the city more available and inviting to residents of Prospect Heights, not just naturally the immediate area. I met with the leadership of the Natural Resource Commission last week to discuss this and to get their thoughts about it. And I would like to, if I have to do it in the form of a motion, I'm ready to do it, to charge the commission with coming to the council between now and the end of June, as well as a date that they were comfortable with a recommendation and a plan as to how we can make the slough and Hillside Lake more inviting and more a community kind of attraction. I know you, Mayor, mentioned about making it more fishing friendly and things like that. So if a motion is necessary, I'm ready to make that motion to go forward with it. And if there's approval to charge the commission with doing that, we can do that officially and have that in the record.
All right, well, we're talking now. If you make a motion, we have to vote. It's not on the agenda, so I guess we can't do that. But if there are any questions, please ask Alderman Rosenthal. Anyone from either end? Alderman Williamson?
Yeah. Larry, I think that it's wise to put that timeline in conjunction with the Willow Road project, if we're going to do that.
No, okay.
Well, it's a
I don't think the
construction
two are together. I really
think are
don't see them.
100% together.
No, I disagree with you, though. What I'm really saying is that if it should be in the form of a motion, question for the attorney, then should I make this under new business?
It's not on the agenda, so, and if we're gonna take a vote on it, it really should be on the agenda, so.
Okay, then I'll make it at the next, I'll request it as an agenda item for the next meeting.
All right, we're taking that. Okay, we're going down the line. Alderman Williamson, you are next.
It's Matt.
Oh, I'm sorry, he's looking back. I
That's
can't
quite all
see
right.
you.
I have no report.
All right, Alderman Williamson.
Thanks. I'd just like to remind everybody that, it's staying late, a little bit later, and kids are out on their bikes now that the weather's breaking, so please be conscious of increased traffic on the sidewalks and streets and walking traffic and stuff.
Good point.
All right, thank you, Chief Zalaki.
Deputy Chief Jim Zalaki, just want to announce that we appointed 3 officers to corporal and reappointed 1 officer. The appointments were Officer Mark Buffont, Kevin Lang, and Mike Smith were appointed from our sergeant's list, and also a reappointment of Corporal Bill Seworth. And that's it.
All right, so we are protected. I do have one request, Peter, and that is that we get out a note tomorrow via our constant contact city e-news and just deal with the one subject. You're going to get nailed on Monday if you don't buy your stickers. Now, don't put in those words, and don't quote me, but let people know you best get in here, and we'll go from there.
Absolutely, sir.
We've never had, we've never come up with any ideas about what if someone's on vacation, then, the answer is, well, they could have done it in the last month, et cetera. But when they walk in on Monday morning, I guarantee you they will be shocked. And we don't have everyone's e-news either, but let's try that. Get a nice paragraph, things are going well, start out with something good, and then please, remind them they should come in as quickly as possible. Any other comments from anyone? Okay, hold on. I'm sorry, Administrator?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Next item is 10, the consent agenda, items that are routine or repeated in nature. Item 10A, I understand from City Attorney, staff memo recommended utility service audit agreement with As of Our Government Solutions. They request to continue that until April 9th. Item 10B, staff memo and recommended telecommunications service audit agreement with Spyglass for an audit of our our costs in our systems, communication systems. And I understand also from legal counsel, this is requested off the consent agenda. Staff memo and recommend, item C, staff memo and recommended audit agreement with Eder Casella and Company. Finance Department, and primarily the work of Assistant Finance Director Sherry Grafin, sent out a request for proposals for auditing service. It's recommended that organizations do not fall in line with the same audit continually, so periodically it changes, brings in fresh eyes, and it's recommended this agreement. And there's a benefit of approximately a 21% savings to what we had been paying previously, too. And then item 10D is staff memo and resolution approving agreement between the City of Prospect Heights Metropolitan Alliance of Police. This is very similar to the patrol officers, but it is loaded differently, and it also recognizes there's differences. There's age and economic interest differences between younger patrol officers and people, be my contemporaries as sergeants. Then we have item 10E is request of council approval for the Prospect Heights Natural Resources Commission to conduct a prescribed burn of the Prospect Heights slough scheduled for March, April. It's indefinite because it so much depends on weather conditions, primarily wind and precipitation. And I think we've done this about 3 or 4 times previously, and communication will be made to neighborhood residents.
All right, so what we've done is taken item 10 as the consent agenda. We've pulled off item A, and we are now looking for approval of the other items.
And item B, I understand too, Mr. Mayor.
Pull that off?
Yes.
All right, so A and B are off, and the rest fall under the consent agenda.
And Mr. Mayor, if I might add, item C is subject to attorney review and approval.
Yes, we spoke about that earlier, right. Please add that. So item C is subject to attorney approval. And now, can I say that the consent agenda is ready for passage? If that's the case, we need a motion.
I move to approve consent agenda items 10C, subject to attorney review and approval, 10D, and 10E.
I second that motion.
All right, we have a motion, we have a second. Roll call, please.
Question, please.
Question, please.
If A and B have been eliminated, when will it come back for action?
Well, my understanding is A would come back April 9th, or scheduled to come back then. And item B is for discussion for tonight. It's removed from the consent agenda, but still for discussion tonight.
So
And Jen, correct me if
it
I'm
would be
wrong.
considered tonight then?
That's my
Yes.
understanding.
Okay. All right.
Any other questions? Roll call, please.
Alderman Rosenthal?
Aye.
Alderman Messer?
Aye.
Alderman Dollar?
Aye.
And,
Alderman
Williams.
Williamson.
Aye.
All right, we have a motion. It's been approved 4-0, and we can move on. You were not included in the officials. You will have the podium now. Now.
I actually have no report, but I do have an announcement,
Just one thing.
and that is to make sure that everybody turns on their microphone on the dais. Unfortunately, the monitor amplifier died, so we weren't able to give you the signal on the monitors that to turn on your microphone tonight. So we'll have to replace that unit
All
when we
right,
get around to it.
all right.
That's all I have tonight.
Appreciate your time. Thank you. What is next, Joe?
Well, we
All the
did,
way to E,
item
so-
10B was pulled off the consent agenda, but it is open for consideration or postponement, whichever council desires.
And why would either take place?
And I don't know, sir.
Anything from you, Counselor?
Oh, go ahead. My understanding from discussions I had with Kevin today was that it was a brand-new item, and we hadn't discussed it yet, and he hadn't had a chance to review the agreement, because it was just sent to him.
It was sent previously, but that's all right.
So he just thought that we at least should be able to review it, though, instead of it just being on the consent agenda and approving something that we hadn't had a chance to discuss yet.
So what is the wish?
I mean, that was my understanding, John. I don't know if he told you anything different.
Right, in talking with Kevin, he had indicated a request that he have a chance to take a look at the agreement. So,
Can somebody explain what this is? Can we start there?
You're asking my question.
As you're aware, I think the city really tries to scrutinize costs. And communications costs, and we have a number of cellular phones, as well, T1 lines, with all, different modes of communications. And sometimes over time, they're added. You kind of lose track of, well, is this fax machine in this department necessary, and so forth. There's a firm that, just as we're doing with our other revenues, such as external revenues from utility taxes and so forth, there's a firm that will come in and audit these things in a number of areas, and the goal is to obtain cost savings. And the cost savings might be through finding out where things aren't needed, redundancies. It might find out where, well, the plans that we have for our cellular phone services, there might be a more economic plan. And like what we were proposing for external revenues, there's not an upfront payment from the city. The payment to the company is realized through the savings that they find. But it's optional. Some communities do this, some don't, and we'll follow council's desire. Mike, is there anything to add? You've been around through a number of these before, too.
I have gone through them a number of times. The companies wouldn't go through the time and effort if they weren't able to find things in the bills. So I look at it as there's no cost to us, so it's worthwhile to have us have it reviewed.
Joe, is this a recommendation coming from you?
Yes.
Okay, I mean, I trust your judgment. This is what we have you for, so I'm in support of it then.
May I comment, Mayor?
Yes, ma'am.
One, under the fees for section 2, it talks about 12 times any of the 2 fees that it lists. I'm not sure if 12 times means if it saves us $100 a month, it's 12 times that, and that's what we pay. And my question would be, is there any guarantee that this monthly savings, since that's how they reference it in the contract, is guaranteed for the 12-month period? Because if they get us on a plan and we're going to save, $100 a month, but in 6 months fees could go up, then we're paying more than what we would save in that first year. So I'd like some information on that. Also, there's no term or right of termination or anything mentioned in the contract. And I don't know if our legal counsel would have any other legal comments, but those are 2 things that I wanted to mention.
Yeah, I have not reviewed it in terms of, other than I noticed the lack of termination and lack of term on it as well, so.
Mr. Mayor.
You're on the air, go ahead.
As I understand this agreement, and tell me if I'm wrong in interpreting it this way, this is basically a contingency agreement whereby they get money if they are able to save us money in a certain percentage. There's no upfront fee that we're paying, or no required fee. If they don't find anything, then they don't get anything.
Correct.
Am I right?
Yes.
Okay.
But isn't it, we're paying them 12 times the fee that they're supposed to save us on a monthly basis, and that fee could change depending on what type of a plan we're put on. Because it says it's a one-time fee, but it's 12 times what the monthly cost reduction would be.
Generally, I
The fees
believe,
for, it says for cost reduction, everything is due, it's a one-time payment due within 30 days. So if they get us a new plan that would save us so much within 30 days of going on the new plan, we have to pay them 12 times that amount. So it's not necessarily a percentage for the two fees, it's 12. For the cost recovery is 50%, but the service elimination cost reduction savings, it's 12 times. So that's where, I was asking if we're put on a new plan, are we guaranteed that we're going to have those savings for 12 months and maybe plus more, because we're basically paying them the way it reads 12 times. If it's a monthly fee, we would be paying them what we would save in 12 months up front. Are we guaranteed to see that savings over those 12 months, or could it go up?
well, sometimes I think it's a matter of they're not even putting you on a new plan. They're just analyzing the costs that are in your current bills to see if you are receiving everything you're being billed for. In some cases, it could be you're paying for circuits that you're not even using on your bill. So in that case, they would remove those circuits, identify what the savings is related to that, and multiply it by 12 to figure out the savings going forward for a year. That's generally what I'm most familiar with. I guess it could come to a case as well that they would recommend to you that you could save more money if you went to a different plan, but I believe you would have a choice to review that before you were actually billed for it.
Okay, but if you went on a new plan and you were paying 12 times the savings up front, that new plan would have to have a rate basically locked in for that 12-month period to know that you're getting that same savings.
Which I'm sure is fairly common. I mean, in most plans I look at, the rate's guaranteed for a period going forward.
We can bring that back to them and see if they'll change that.
I have another quick question. Is this something that is an ongoing negotiation, like throughout the year? As an example, you mentioned if they found that certain circuits are not being used, we find that a few months down the road, they are needed, or something that has been cut, we find that that is making our work within the city more difficult. Is that something that is ongoing that we can renegotiate that, or do they just come in and say, these are the savings that we found? You have to wait a certain period of time before we can reestablish some of those items?
I've never run into a problem like that. I have been involved where circuits were cut because they weren't being utilized, but it was only after we reviewed it internally first. Generally, these are one-time things. They're going to come in, review our billing, and then move on from there.
Okay.
I would think it might be a good idea to have legal counsel give us any comments.
let's-
When Kevin as well, I know he had a minor surgery, so when he's back, I think I would just like to know if he has any comments and any changes be incorporated.
All right, so Joe, you suggest that we bring this back?
Sure.
Why don't we
At a
do
later
that
date.
and take no action anyway? So it's not an agenda item, for example. All right, we've got, under old business, that's the budget. So let's move item 12 first, so that people won't be sitting here through a lengthy budget meeting, which we all anticipate. Item 12A is a requested ordinance, this being the first reading, increasing the number of Class 8-2 liquor licenses with the hours of,
We did, and then we went back and talked. Okay. We did. Sorry, there was confusion. We did vote on the consent agenda and then went back to 10B.
right, to open discussion for that item.
Thanks.
All right, so, again, increasing the number of Class A2 liquor licenses with the hours of Monday through Saturday, 8 AM to 4 AM, and Sunday, 12 to 3 AM. Quick question, what does the home bar have? Someone help me. Don't they only have the 4 o'clock till 2 days on the weekend?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay, and this is looking for every night,
This view.
okay? So 12 to, and Sunday, 12 to 3, from 1 to 3 by request from Ramada's Tap House Grill, 1090 South Milwaukee Avenue, and Players Pub and Grill, 1250 River Road. So if I could ask the principal at Players Club, or both of you, come up and explain to at least me, if no one else. They may all understand it, but I don't. So let's review what you're talking about. You're looking for a 4 o'clock license. Come on, where's our podium? There it is. Thought somebody took it. So Dave, you're looking for a 4 o'clock license 6 days a week?
Yes, sir.
And the seventh day is still 3?
Correct.
All right. You want,
The A2 liquor license?
you know, we're very reluctant to increase, and I speak for myself at this moment, but I think I speak for Alderman also, to bring any more 4 AM licenses in here. Your objection was, go ahead.
We're looking to increase revenues to help us counteract some of the costs we've had with our business model that we have right now. With the OTB being completed, our property taxes since 2011 till now have doubled, equivalent to about $25,000 a month we're paying right now, just in property taxes alone. And the revenue increase from the OTB itself has not equaled out to that amount. So we were looking at other ways to increase our revenue to kind of help us sustain and increase our business. And one of the ways we were looking at was the liquor license going till 4 o'clock. And as Alderman Messer was generous enough to talk to us earlier, we went over a couple scenarios, but one of them would be, you know, it's only an extra 2 hours a night, you know, 5 of those nights, and it's an extra 2 hours those other 2 nights, and 1 hour on Sunday, so, or 4, 2, and 1. How much can you increase? With the OTB, with the video poker machines, and with our bar, if we increased an average of $200 a night, which would be about $1,400 a week, that would bring us very close to helping us to maintain our business, still make money, still help the city to make money, and pay off for the increase in the property taxes, and also the fixed cost of electric, gas, and water, which have all increased, you know, 30, 40% with the addition that we put on the building. So there's other things we're trying. We have done, you know, special events, delivery, and we're just trying to, you know, look at all aspects. And with talking the last meeting about 4 o'clock's maybe not being available and stuff like that, when we purchased the establishment, we knew that they were available to some degree. Whether or not we could get one, we didn't know. But we would like to be, you know, on record as saying that we would really like one, and we would hope that, you know, although there have been some issues with different financing things, I was talking earlier, and Mike, maybe you could help me with this, but from my understanding of what you sent out with the financials, Players Pub OTB handle alone is about $124,000 for fiscal year, 10 months fiscal year for right now, and the entire entertainment income for the city is $240,000. So approximately 50% of city revenue comes from our establishment, or 50% of, not of, but we're about 50% of what the revenue is, just from the OTB, and with our sales tax, which we are working on and will not be late anymore for all the city council to know that. Talk to some people, and we're going to fix that. But I know that money and income is not the end-all, be-all, but as an establishment that's been around for, you know, going on 7 years, for what we're trying to do and for the amount of money that we can contribute to the city, we're hoping that we at least get a consideration from the council that possibly, we could get this 4 o'clock to help us out, to help us, keep, the business where it is. Because right now, if, taxes keep increasing, we have to keep finding ways to increase our income, otherwise it just doesn't work anymore. And if it doesn't work anymore, then we're gone, and that money's gone from you guys, from us, and we're in trouble. So that's why we're here, making sure that we at least voice our concerns and our wants and needs from the council to, at least get a discussion going so that we can see where this can go.
Michael, the numbers I just heard of what the production, our share of video gaming, of OTB, and of food sales also?
Well, I didn't even get into the video gaming, but our video gaming is the 4th in the city. I think there's 12, and we're the number 4 on the list, 1, 2, 3, 4. But I was talking mostly about the OTB handle, and as it compares to revenue from eating and sales tax. Is that what it is, Michael?
Eating establishment tax, yes.
Correct.
The budget for eating establishment tax is about $300,000 for the entire city. The amount that they take in on OTB revenue to date is $124,000.
When you say they take in, that's not our share.
That is our share.
It is our share.
Yes,
All right.
it is our share. That is our share that we take from them.
And then video gaming brings in what?
Well, I don't have their individual
Well, you would
total.
know. What is it?
I want to, I can't be, I looked it up 2 days ago, but I want to say it was about 15 grand a year for the city's.
I'm sorry, 5-0 or 1-5?
1.5.
1.5.
$15,000 for the city's side of it, but I'm not sure on that number. I don't have it off the top of my head. But we are the 4th highest grossing video poker establishment in Prospect Heights.
So you're saying $15,000 a month?
No, the video.
A year?
A year. The video poker, the city gets 5% of the total
Right,
income.
I know. You get 35.
30.
So
30 for us, 30 for the state, 30 for the operators,
All right,
5 for
no,
the county,
it's
5
just
for
a
the city.
point made for me, anyway. I will say this, why didn't you just go for what Home Bar has? 2 nights till 4 o'clock.
Well,
I'm not saying you should, I'm not saying you get passage on that, but why did you go right to the top? I believe you'd
I
be
mean,
the
I
only
went- we
bar.
went right for the
Hold-
top.
David, hold on a minute. Karen, how many nights is the, what's the other one? The Rockies. When do they have a 4 o'clock license? 2 days a week?
I'm not sure.
I
if they
think
have
Rockies
anything
is Monday through Saturday.
Monday. So that would be an 8th.
All right, so you do have one that is and another one that's less.
Mhm.
And Tap House is looking for something different. Is anyone here from Tap House? No. From 7 to 5, first reading, grill. So why not follow the home bar application and see how it goes? And I'm not saying that would be easier, I'm just saying.
Absolutely. I'm not saying that we wouldn't take that either, but when we looked at it, we decided to look at what our revenue could be, and then as far as generating revenue, the greatest chance for us to do that would be if we had the most hours available, because of the OTB being able to support more customers later into the night. They have races that go 24 hours a day, so they can be betting in Dubai or England or wherever, and that can generate more money for us, for the city. And also with the revenue from the video poker machines, I mean, every hour those things are open, it's just a cash machine. And that would be, our greatest chance to increase would probably be from them, because we do receive the most from that. But it would be a benefit for everyone, the more hours that we could operate and generate revenue for everybody. So our sales tax would go up because we could serve more food and alcohol and pop. Our income from the video poker would go up, and it's a matter of time. Video poker machines, the highest grossing video poker machines in the state are at 24-hour diesel gas stations. They do hundreds of thousands of dollars. They blow away any bar or restaurant in here, even the Blackhawk Group, which is one of the highest ones in the state. These diesel places double and triple that because it's 24 hours. It's a time thing. It's just a matter of having people have the ability to go in there and play those games.
Nobody's stopping you from staying open.
Hold on. a
You
minute,
just can't
please.
sell liquor.
Oh, hang on a second. I have the floor at the moment.
Sure.
Which I seldom have. So my next question would be, I lost it. Got interrupted, I lost it. But it's still there. Let me think about it for a moment.
If I may for 1 second, Scott, I understand that
Oh,
we
I'm
can stay
sorry,
open.
I have it, David. It came back to me out of the clouds. Our police department may have to, and I say may, certainly on a 5-day-a-week, 4 AM license, 6-day-a-week, would have to hire 2 additional people. We have to think about what will those 2 people cost us versus what is being brought in. And I don't see the 2 equating at the moment.
Okay.
It's a discussion I had with the police department, that was their report. I'd like to look at that, but I believe they know what they're doing.
Sure,
They know what
absolutely.
their costs are. So those are some of the issues. Why don't we go ahead and finish what you're saying, then we'll go back to the council.
I'm not sure about the off-track betting license, but I know for a fact that the video gaming license is tied directly to your liquor license. So when you apply for that license every year, you have to put down your hours of operation, and it's all wirelessly. So when we open, they turn on. When we close, as far as the liquor license is concerned, they shut off. So we would be able to be open and serve juice but the video poker machines would not be generating any income. They couldn't.
Yeah, I don't know how that works myself.
Just for that, I'm sure. I don't know about the off-track betting. I will look into that, and I'll email you and let you know.
All right.
But I think it's pretty much, I know for a fact the video poker is tied to that because you have to apply that way. You have to apply with your establishment's hours, and they go on and off at that time.
And they shut it off automatically, I'm aware of that.
But
Alderman Williamson has the floor, so are you comfortable with what you've brought to us right now, so he can take over?
We brought it up as the 4M. We're willing to talk and discuss and take whatever we can get, actually. We're
All
not
right,
coming
that's
and demanding
good.
anything.
Alderman
We're asking
Williamson,
for
please.
Advice and help.
Okay, regarding the hours, I don't know exactly how that works. I mean, I don't know if you have to have liquor license hours or if it's hours of operation. Obviously, my guess is you're not gonna go to, become a juice bar between the hours of 2 and 4. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but you have a Class A license, right?
Yes,
So you're open till 3 o'clock on Friday and Saturday anyway?
correct.
Okay, but, I reached out to the chief of police, and he said to me, the first question I asked is, what do you think of this? And he goes, it doesn't bother me, but we need, more personnel.
Sure.
Because we've had instances where, the 4 AM on the east side and the 4 AM on the west side have had problems at the same time, and it taxes our entire department. And correct me if I'm wrong,
That's correct.
okay? And we have to call in for backup from neighboring communities. If we go and add 1 or 2 more, and you get that perfect storm,
Right.
which, well,
It happens.
let's admit it, between 2 and 4 in the morning,
Yep.
things happen. So that's something we need to work out internally. And as Nick alluded to, for us to bring on a couple of police is going to cost us in excess of a couple $100,000. The return we're going to get from 2 establishments being open for another hour or 2 is never going to balance out that position, that financial position. Secondly, I personally, I've got reservations, and it's nothing against Players Club, but it's, all of a sudden, we're creating the Prospect Heights being the 4 AM destination. Because all of the collar cities around us, they don't offer it. And I have struggles with that myself.
I
So,
believe Lucky's does. They did, right?
what's that?
Lucky McGee's? I'm sorry, Finn McCool's.
Yeah,
Sorry.
we're going to say Lucky's is gone, and you benefited from that one.
Right. Finn McCool's.
Is that
down-
in Schaumburg?
No, on
Plains River Road.
River Road.
Oh, okay.
A
I
la
don't know.
carte restaurant, right? It's.
Oh,
a mile away
okay, I know
from
what you're
the-
talking
from
about, yeah.
Players.
Yeah,
Just-
but just so you know where I'm at, but I think that we need to have further discussions internally from a budget perspective before we could really move forward.
All right, thank you, Alderman Dolick.
I'm not going to waste the time just repeating everything that Alderman Williamson just said, but I share those same concerns, and I too have had communications with our police department. And those, I don't see those costs offsetting each other. So it really doesn't benefit the city. I see additional problems occurring. That doesn't mean I would like to see your business helped. I'm all for helping businesses within Prospect Heights, but I see some issues. And again, I would defer to Deputy Chief Solaki to address some of those.
Thank you.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I was just agreeing with the gentleman that spoke already. We need to look at this. We're not tossing you out with the bathwater.
This is a discussion, right?
Right. All right, Alderman Rosenthal?
I'm in alignment with my fellow aldermen and the mayor on this. I'd like to see what the revenues that would come in off and what would be the expenses that we would have to. I have no problem with the time, as long as there's been no problems that we can determine. But I'd like to see that, that financial analysis and whether, based upon that analysis, how it comes about. It's not simply an extension of 1 hour based upon what your average sales are. I would suspect that between 3 and 4 o'clock, there's less of that, less drinking going on than there is. Or maybe I'm wrong, I don't know. I'm not up in yet, so I don't know. But I'd like to see the financials of it, and I'll want to see the rationale by how those financials were created.
All right, thank you. Alderman Messer?
I have nothing to add, and I met with Dave and John. We spoke, so.
All right, this is a first reading. There's no vote taken here, and there's no conclusion as yet that we've arrived at. So thank you for coming out.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Mr. Mayor, this brings us to the budget discussion portion of the agenda. Finance Director Ducharme and I are going to go down in front. It's much easier to,
Yes, thank you.
communicate with the council.
Plus, he has a cold, so
Yeah.
get him far away.
And quarantine down.
Quarantine, right. Don't get so close, Mike. This guy's got to stay healthy. You've already got it.
Just by way of introduction, scheduled for tonight is review and discussion of the capital budget as well as all other funds. The capital budget that is proposed, we've tried to break things down over what we anticipate upcoming expenses and needs over the next 5 years. But for tonight's purposes, we're looking at 2018 expenditures. What is presented tonight is broken down into a few categories. The largest part of the capital budget is street resurfacing. We anticipate roughly about a third of our streets are going to need attention within the next several years. As you are aware, we did a large bond issue several years ago, and we did great work on the streets. But there are streets that at that time were okay, and each year this list changes. How we rate the streets is from the engineering study that was conducted last summer, where DeWalt Hamilton went out and rated each street in the city and came up with a prioritized list. There's only a couple deviations from that list that we're proposing, and those are streets that have been identified as being eligible for Surface Transportation Program money, STP funding. It's not a certainty that we could get that, but certainly if you don't apply, you won't. Presently, there's a moratorium on STP funding within the Northwest Council. When that breaks up, we still maintain that it's worth applying for because it's roughly about 80% of funding for those streets. And that's sizable. That'd be in the amount of several $100,000. So that's the first area. We're also proposing for drainage improvements. There are two projects that have been discussed previously with council. One is the effort, the partnership that the city has worked on. We received a grant a few years ago from the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District for local stormwater management projects. It's my understanding we were the first wave of applicants, and I think about 30 were awarded of over 100 applications. The issue, though, we have is, as a project of this size, this is for the raising of Willow, Hillcrest, and Owen. And those are streets that experienced flooding. They were closed off this last summer. At times, depending on the severity of the situation, they can be closed off for a few to several days. The project is probably, we don't have a number back from the MWRD, but we're looking at roughly about $2.8 to $3 million. It would be obviously a long-term correction to a problem that the city's had for some time. The city share of that is estimated to be about $800,000 to $900,000. We had initially thought that we could leverage Surface Transportation Program, SDP funding. Again, the moratorium is a problem. We're not seeing an opening for that in 3 years. And when it does occur, it's likely to be like the Oklahoma land rush. So we've also gone back to the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District to see if they could supplement that funding. I think if the city share could get down to about $400,000, that's about what the percentage would be on a standard 80-20 type project with that we do with the state or other agencies. So we're working on that. But we're also very much aware of what, if we had to spend $900,000, that's practically 1 year's worth of resurfacing of all our streets. So just to place that in context. The other drainage improvement that we had talked about previously last summer, and the council asked for a report from DeWalt Hamilton, and that is the detention basin, the possibility of connecting the detention basin, which is Clear Lake, to the other detention basin, which is a few blocks away down near the park to the east. That's being proposed for additional engineering work. We're not even sure if that would work. The preliminary concept engineering plan that DeWalt Hamilton did took a look at that, recognized it as a possibility, but before going forward, that would have to be refined and additional calculations would be offered, much greater engineering study. That's also a several $100,000 project. Sidewalks coming up for 2018 is what's on the list. And we have two projects that are in the hopper. One is further along, that's the Schoenbeck sidewalk extension. We've worked on that before. It's following Alderman Rosenthal's point about putting the comprehensive plan in action. The comprehensive plan, one of the major parts of it is greater connectivity for pedestrians and bicyclists. And this link would be good because that would provide a connection to Eisenhower School. Where that project is at is we've submitted engineering work to Cook County Department of Transportation. They've asked for a sidewalk study. I'm sorry, not a sidewalk study, but part of the sidewalk study, they've asked for a tree survey. That's underway. We anticipate bringing that back to council with a neighborhood notice for people in the neighborhood as well, notification to them, because there aren't sidewalks in that area. There's landscaping, swales, there's a number of obstacles. We anticipate that coming to council about May or June. And then the other sidewalk program, hopefully, we've submitted an application for Illinois Transportation Enhancement Program, ITEP, and that's for Wolf Road. As you are aware, Wolf Road there's a number of condos and apartments. It's also a connection to the train station. There's no sidewalk. The swales are difficult in the winter, particularly with snow plowing. You see people walking in the road. It's not not a safe situation. So, but we're hoping to hear from the state about our application probably within April or May. Sewer improvements, the big line item there for this coming year, 2018, 2019, and this is one we are asking for, if it's approved by council, is asking for authorization tonight, and that's to approve the televising, inspection, and cleaning, light cleaning of our system, which is primarily what we took over from Old Town. As you are aware, we did a portion of that, a sample portion, but we're requesting that we do a full analysis within the next 2 years to break it down into annual portions. That's easier for us to digest. Why this is so important is this will become the baseline for the sewer capital improvements plan. If we can get in there proactively and recognize where there are faults within the sewer system, we can then develop a relining plan, and relining using in situ form or a number of products like that is much cheaper than having to go into and reconstruct once a sewer collapses. So the analysis of this, which is about a $400,000 project for the entire city, is primarily designed to be preventative and to recognize areas where there are faults where we can do relining at a much cheaper price than reconstruction, which requires excavation and possible loss of trees. There's just a number of problems that come with that. The next area is equipment, information technology. We have a line item this year, $50,000. That's primarily for replacement computers. A big part of this is because we're doing a changeover through the Northwest Central Dispatch System, so that will be required. That's the bulk of computer replacements that we'll do. It's running a different operating platform, so we have to make these changes. The good news is that the portion that's related to police department use is eligible for drug enforcement funds. So that would take pressure off the general fund budget. And then lastly, for discussion, for presentation tonight, is vehicles and equipment. What had been listed on the capital project summary, there's a typo. It's $103,000 for public works, and that would cover the cost of 4 underbelly snowplows. Underbelly snowplows are the plows that are placed on our big trucks, not the pickups, but the big trucks. And they can just do a much cleaner, more effective way of plowing snow, in addition to the front plow. And then the other request from Public Works is replacement of a 4x4 pickup truck. And then within police, public safety, there's the annual request that they try to replace the fleet on a scheduled basis, and that's the replacement of 2 fully equipped squad cars. So that's what's presented tonight. The bulk of it, as I mentioned, is an aggressive street resurfacing program. In meeting with finance and also with engineering, we're doing it, we're presenting a little bit differently. As you recall, in the past few years, we did maybe 1 street or 2 streets. We'd like to be more aggressive because I think that would also allow us to get a better scale economy from vendors. If we can bulk up a bit our work, that will be more attractive. And the other factor that's in play right now is, as you are all aware, the state budget situation. IDOT is not doing a lot of road work. So it's a good supply market. There are a lot of larger road contractors that oftentimes in a good IDOT year wouldn't be interested in smaller cities. But I think we would present a robust capital plan, the combination of what presently there are decent asphalt prices. As you know, asphalt is related to the price of oil. The combination of that and less demand in the state, we think that the next 2 to 3 years could be very advantageous for cities to go out to do major asphalt resurfacing work. So that's what we have presented for the capital budget for tonight. And if there are any questions, but Mike also will cover all the other funds as well. Maybe the last thing I want to present is that Mayor, you had mentioned from Finance Director Ducharme has, and I share it, continual concern of the ability of the city to fund capital improvements. And that's not just our city, that's any city. We do see some things coming up on the horizon. We are under the process now of a IDOT motor fuel tax audit. We will be presenting information we feel will be favorable. That will free up, I think, Mr. Ducharme, what, about 900,000? 900,000 that could go to capital. Now that has to be used for streets. That can't be used for vehicles or sewers or things like that, but it's well in need. And then the other item is there's roughly about $530,000 in the solid waste fund, and that's from refuse fees. And I think there's a good linkage here because there's on our residential streets there's not a vehicle that does more damage than triple axle garbage trucks. They're much heavier weighted, and our streets also don't have curbs, so you get on the edge of it, it wears down the asphalt. So as part of the capital project presentation tonight, we're also recommending that should this MFT audit come through the right way, that be transferred or available for street resurfacing. And then the other item that we're recommending tonight is the transfer of $530,000 in solid waste, from the solid waste fund to the capital project fund.
Joe, is that 500,000 more money than what we just talked about? Is it in addition to?
Yes, sir, that would be in addition. That is not presently in the capital budget, and that would go a long way. That's a good contribution.
Our questions, Alderman Messer.
No questions.
Alderman Rosenthal.
Yes, first of all, the way you've presented this is very good. It's understandable. I have one problem with it, and it focuses on the streets. As I read the introduction on page, I don't know, it's the street resurfacing slide, year 1. I'm reading that section up there where it says a proposed 5-year street fund resurfacing program has been established with the engineering firm. And I have several questions about this. Did the engineering firm look at all streets of the city?
Yes, sir. That's this last summer's document.
Okay. Then my second question is, are all of the streets looked at with their point assignment in that document?
Yes.
Because what I see here, and I'm being specific to my ward now, there are a significant number of streets that do not appear that are in Ward 2, primarily in the Rob Roy area, that are not in any of these lists. So if they're in those lists and they're looked at beyond the 5-year plan as the plan for 6, 7, and 8, how are they going to be implemented? Are we going to roll forward with that plan? For example, as next year, we're going to be looking at 23 and 24 going forward, and are they in there, and is that available? Because I can hear members of the community who don't see their streets listed asking questions.
There will be a rotation effect. 2018 is a snapshot as it is now. But as streets age and their condition diminishes, this will be in rotation. But, and we can go over this later, but their effort was to rate every street. The streets that are listed within the next coming years are the ones that are ranked as the highest priority of need.
No, I understand that, because part of that paragraph that they have in there says that this operates like a golf score. The lower the number, the higher the need. And a golf score in reverse, actually. So I understand that. But I think it's be important for the community as they start to look at these lists. And I think it's important for us to have this list and have a schedule going forward, whatever number of years it is, and whatever we determine the life of a street is, given its condition and things like that. That should be available to the community to look at if they, any community member, if they want to look at that.
Absolutely. We'll make sure, we may have this online already. If not, we'll make sure that we do, because this is a rational basis for evaluating.
Right, no, and we had advocated that when we talked, I remember talking to the engineering firm. We wanted them to come up with an objective, systematic evaluation, not running by the seat of our pants. So I'm fine with that. I just have concerns that I see, as I look through the list, I saw numbers of streets that are specifically within the Rob Roy area, let me be perfectly transparent about it, that weren't listed.
Right.
For example, my street wasn't listed, so, but I see other streets as well.
Alderman Dolick.
Just a quick question for clarification. You said that MFT funds are used only for street improvement. Is that only for resurfacing or other improvements such as signage or traffic signals?
I should clarify that. We are recommending that it be used for street improvements. There are other eligible costs, salt, some labor costs. What I meant to say for purposes of the capital discussion, we can't use MFT funds for some of the other capital items here. If it's sewers or information technology or well, actually vehicles we could, I believe. Yeah, I think it related to, but what also makes it, we know within the next several years, wherever this money comes from, we're going to be facing millions of dollars worth of street improvements. It's our recommendation that we utilize the MFT funding for this. Other money can be, money that's in the general fund can be used more discretionary.
Okay, and that makes sense. I don't disagree with that. The only thing that came to mind is I know Mark Roscoe was talking about improvements being made to signage, things like that. Is that something that money could be used for, or does that come out of, you mentioned that coming out of his budget. I'm trying to just wrap my head around all of this, where the money comes from.
My recommendation, I've worked in a number of communities, and sometimes communities try to get a little cute with MFT funding, and I think that catches up with them. My recommendation, we know it's going to be, we know we have these resurfacing needs. Resurfacing needs are going to be beyond what MFT makes available. But for purposes of a clean submission to IDOT, clean for auditing purposes, our recommend, and Mike's too, our recommendation is that we earmark the MFT money for these streets.
And that makes sense. I have no problem with that. Thank you.
Alderman Williamson.
To start off, I'd like to say thank you to both you and everybody that was involved for the commitment to this. Most importantly, the two most draining pieces being the roads and the drainage. Not the drainage, I'm sorry, but the sewer program. You know, addressing that with a capital plan certainly puts us in a proactive position that we haven't been in quite some time. You know, when Nick and Pat and I first got into this, that was the first thing we did was try and create, first of all, we went and we started redoing the roads, and we tried to create a program exactly as this. And I think it was a good start at that point, and this just really progressed it and improved it. So thank you. I did have questions about the vehicles for Public Works. Okay, the ones for public safety are very self-explanatory. But for Public Works, I see a big dollar amount in 2021. What is it that they're looking for?
Uh, 2021. Let me see here.
But it jumps from a couple $100,000 to 200%.
That's the sewer truck.
Oh, okay.
The bad news is they're incredibly expensive. They're $300,000 or above. The good news is, one we had, I think, is a 1999.
You haven't hit me with any bad news yet. I mean, if we need a sewer truck so we can go to the bathroom,
Still
please.
works.
Yeah. But they're very expensive, but once you purchase them, it's for 20 years. Generally.
All right, well, thank you again. I mean, it's very comprehensive, and I appreciate that.
Let me hold off a minute. Joe, you're talking about the big truck that blows out the sewers, and that truck cost was shared by two groups. I don't remember, other than what our share was from the city. Who else was paying for that truck? Oh, I'm sorry. It was Old Town Sanitary District, so we didn't have that much of a situation. If I could just add, Alderman Rosenthal, he made a point which is good, and that is the people that assess the need for paving are people that walk on the streets. So I think a general question might be, how was the study done? Was it a drive-by? Oh, that looks all right. Oh, this looks all right. Was there some more scientific way of approaching all this? And I'll give you another example. Arrowhead, where I live.
I have another question.
Arrowhead, where I live, we're on the 16th year of a streets being worked on. When we went into this program, as Alderman Williamson explained, we set aside 3 packets of $5 million. And we had a great plan. We had different bidders, even on Plan 2 and Plan 3. Although I believe we used two of the packets were done by the same. So 16, at that point, our streets in Arrowhead were 8 years old. It didn't look that bad. I mean, things looked pretty good. And as I mentioned to you in the past, it's now 16 years. And are any of the streets on that list replacing 8 years ago when the streets were, 4 years ago when the streets were put in?
No, I don't think so. And I'll double check that. You do raise an interesting point. When we constructed this plan, we did an assumption of a street life of about 15 years. Some are going to be less than that, some greater. Much depends on such conditions as the amount of traffic. Drainage has a huge impact. And we're maybe at risk, more at risk than other communities because we don't have curb and gutter. So the edges of the pavement present different challenges. But I don't, and I'll double check this, Mayor, but I don't think the streets, any of the streets that you did, which is a compliment to the quality of the work, are needed now. So I think that wave was safe. It's the ones that weren't addressed that are forthcoming.
I must tell you that we gave Alderman Williamson a whip, a bullwhip, and a automatic pistol. So they got the bullwhip first if they didn't do something right, and there were things that weren't done right. And of course, he never had to use the gun, but he did just do some whipping, did a great job. I mean, it's the one thing I will always give him credit for. It worked out fine. But I've got people walking my streets, just like Larry does, and they see something different than other people do. Walt Hamilton, for example, additional. You might say, well, it really should be double the amount of streets that need work on. We don't have the money for that. Everybody understands that. But I hope it was a focused look at what should be done. Because as you point out, Alderman, you feel that there are some streets that should be done. Nobody's going to ask you, by the way. They don't ask me either. So we have to depend on a study. I like that. That's a smart thing to do. So a close look at all times, and especially if we're going to start videotaping all the sewers too, we're going to find some perennial drops in the streets because of sewers.
There's a similar methodology to what we're trying to do with streets as what we are with sewers. If you can do resurfacing at the right time before it becomes a more expensive reconstruction problem, there's problems in the subsurface, that's far more effective than waiting too long when the streets starts to present other problems. So like the sewers, we're trying to be proactive. We're also trying to do resurfacing at the right time, before the street becomes so challenged that there's subsurface work that makes it more expensive.
As Dan knows, I'll be right with you, Alderman. As Dan knows, there's an intersection at Camp McDonald and Schoenbeck. That intersection has just a small patch, but it's had to be patched 3 times, from what I know. It might have been 4 times, and they don't build up underneath. So this patch sinks every year. Dan, you remember that corner? And he made some noise with county. They're not our streets. And they do come out and they patch it, and then a year later, they're sinking in again. So I don't want to go through that with our plan here, and have those kind of problems arise. So when you talk about working underneath, you got to do it. And you won't really know until you do your sewers, where the hot buttons are. Last hot button was at Olive, over across from Brandonberry. And there was a heck of a time with drainage causing sinking roads. Those are some comments. Alderman Rosenthal.
Yeah, I'd like to turn now, thank you, Mayor. I'd like to turn now to the information technology section, particularly on your replacement computers. And did you define a shelf life for the personal computers, the ones that are used in the office? Probably you need it for the police department as well. And what is that shelf life you set up for it?
Oh, I'm sorry, Alderman Rosenthal. I don't have, we did get something from Decine, our computer consultant. There was an evaluation of that, but I don't recall. I want to say 5 or 6 years, but I'm not sure. Mike, do you recall?
He had a rotation schedule, but I don't remember what it was.
If it's 5 or 6 years to retire a computer, it's too long. Technology moves much faster than that. And that, I think you should take a look at. And the way the graph is here, or the table, it shows it making an investment in replacement computers, 32 of them, 23 of which will come from the DEA's agency fund in 18 and 19. Nothing happens in the following years.
My understanding is we have an age lump, that they're all up. It's not like we've had, like the squad car replacements where we've had a continual program of 5 computers a year or so forth. So that was his evaluation. Yeah.
I don't understand what you just said.
Well, I think your point is why are we all buying them in 1 year rather than over the course of 5 years, more equalized?
I have a question with you having 5 years, but let's talk about that.
Well, my understanding is from his assessment is because they have not been purchased in a cyclical manner, so they're all coming due at that time. They were purchased in a bunch.
Also, Joe, excuse me for going in, but the main bulk for the police department computers is the mandatory upgrade to the Windows 10.
That's correct, as I addressed coming out. Those are going to have to, even if they've been purchased last year or the year before, they're obsolete because of the new system.
No, I'm not even talking about, I understand that. I'm talking about really, my focus is on the computers that are in the office here, not the police computers. I understand that the new system requires that. I'm looking at the ones for the office here. You got machines, the last time I looked, were 7 or 8 years old. That's way too old. And we're running operating systems that are no longer supported. And I think we need to, just as you created a schedule for the streets and for what we're going to do in the sewers, if it's in the capital budget, we should be doing the same thing for these things, even if you got to work a little bit to jiggle it to get to that point. The way it sits right now, we're back where we were.
All right, who have we not called on? Messer, you said some things to start out with, right? Or are you still on the air?
Sorry, I couldn't get my mic turned on. No, I noticed that one of the streets was moved a year later, but it's per their plan, so I'm fine. I do
Okay.
not have any other questions.
All right.
Thank you.
How do you want to tie this down? Are you next, or are you done? Michael?
You can move on if you like.
Well, if we have no further questions, we could get a cocktail break, or we can move on.
Why don't we go through some of the other funds that are out here?
Go.
First, excuse me. Motor fuel tax fund. The revenue that we're seeing from the state is pretty consistent from next year to the past year. The only MFT funds we're using are for salt. Other than that, they're all being used for resurfacing. And as we've said before, upon completion of the audit, we're hoping there's $900,000 that'll be freed up that we can use for road resurfacing going forward.
All right, can I ask you what hoping means?
Hoping.
Hoping. I mean, would there be none?
In the past, the problem was the city embarked on all these projects and never completed the paperwork. So.
You're talking about our city?
Yes.
Oh.
So when we sat down with IDOT, there were millions of dollars of projects out there that needed to be cleared up. To alleviate having millions of dollars of projects, if we dedicate all the money to resurfacing, then it is very easy to focus on that paperwork, and we'll make the engineers responsible for doing it. But under what we were doing before, the system just didn't work, and we would continue to get into problems.
All right, thank you. Anyone else? What's next?
Next fund, TIF fund. This is very interesting. The increment that we expected to get from the Milwaukee Palatine TIF was estimated to be $295,000 this year. To date, we've received in excess of $800,000 from increment. On the expense side, we've also made the last payment for the debt service for the Milwaukee Palatine TIF, which will free up about $525,000 a year going forward. As I've said many times, I would suggest that we take whatever excess money builds up in those TIF funds and use it to repay the general fund. Currently, there's $1 million loan, and there's an advance of $4.4 million that's currently on the books that was borrowed to pay off the debt from the arena land in the past. Based on the calculations, if we continue to generate $800,000 of increment a year, and there's no longer a debt service payment, we can retire that debt fairly quickly. And the sooner we do, the better, because it'll just free it up for other capital purposes.
When you say retire the debt, you're talking about retiring the debt service that we have internally?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And there is only 2 years remaining on that TIF.
2020, I believe, is the next, 2020 and 2021, I believe, are the last two, because there were two TIF financing, one, and then followed the next year by the other.
It is my intent to take as many dollars as I can from those TIFs and retire that debt as quickly as possible. It doesn't require any further action from the board. The interfund loan I can do as we go along. And I will continue to do that, and I will tell you when I do that in the monthly report that I give you.
So if I could ask you real quick, Michael, moving forward, I don't know what the difference in cost is for budget versus reality. It's obviously significant. So you're thinking, once we pay off that interfund loan, that there'll still be money in the TIF?
That we can use to retire the $4.4 million that's sitting out there as well. It is my understanding, and please correct me if I'm wrong, there was an advance from the general fund to the development fund in excess of the current $4.4 million, which was used to purchase the arena land. 4.4 is what remains on the books today. Part of that money will come whenever we sell the arena land. But any balance would have to be paid off from the increment that is being generated within those TIF districts. And I'm just trying to get us to the point that we clear the books of the debt.
Of course.
And make sure there's sufficient increment to cover that.
Okay. Thank you for the explanation.
I think that's an excellent idea. And really, maybe if somebody's having difficulty with it, basically saying, we're having our left pocket pay back our right pocket.
Yes. And the sooner we do it, the better. One less thing to worry about. Tourism fund. Hotel tax remains relatively flat for the upcoming year. The expense side pretty much mirrors last year's budget. And there are service charges that remain in the tourism fund because there are no salaries budgeted in this fund. Yet Mark does have a number of his people working out there. Currently, there's about $300,000 of fund balance that exists in the tourism fund. In looking at the ordinance that created the tourism district, I would hope that we would try to use that $300,000 for road or related improvements within that tourism district before it ends up getting utilized for some other purpose.
And we have work identified, Winkleman will need resurfacing that runs between the hotels. At Apple Drive, which is next to a hotel, there's improvement, resurfacing, as well as like to do a drainage improvement there. So there are projects that are certainly related to the geographic space of the tourism district.
Well, let me interrupt you. Winkleman was resurfaced a couple of years ago. The issue is with Sanders and Winkleman, which is Northfield Township. They've got problems there. They've had problems there for a number of years. And they kept promising that they would take care of it. They ended up taking all of Winkleman, which was good. We didn't have to do our share. Our share starts with the forest preserve trees, and then the Hilton, and then Milwaukee Avenue. Also, the tourism fund was set up because we closed our CVB, our Convention and Visitors Bureau, and had the hotels who were getting benefit from the $5 per room income. They were getting back money for one purpose only. That was for advertising. And I don't think that's changed any unless you read something different. I know we haven't even edited that agreement periodically. So I believe if there's $300,000 in the tourism fund, the best you can hope for is giving the money, letting them use for things like the Christmas tree lighting that they put in, and the median, and flowers on the berms, etc.
Well, my concern here is this $300,000 has built up from years where it was budgeted to reimburse the hotels for their expenses.
Yes.
and they didn't utilize it.
They can only get as much as they put in on a percentage basis.
But my point is, there are hotels who, even though they contribute, don't pull money out.
Right, right. That's
My-
good.
My fear is we're gonna get to the point, though, where they're just pulling the money out to cover their normal advertising costs and not advertising above and beyond what they would normally budget.
But advertising, you see, we used to have to pay for the advertising. We had $1 million in reserve in the tourist fund. And the operation before, certainly this current council and the previous council got here, was doing nothing. They spent maybe each year about $700,000, and the fund, $1 million reserve fund, built up. We had no ability to draw our reserve fund, was our reserve fund, because it could only be used for the advertising. And the advertising isn't that clear. You're saying they're doing their own stuff. Well, if it's advertising, then you got to recognize it. So they come in, and Karen, you're part of the process here. They come in and they submit their advertising bills. And whatever that bill, those bills are, total, has a total amount. But they, you know how it works. They only get paid back what they're entitled to under what they put in. So they can't withdraw the whole thing. They can only withdraw what they put the $5 fee in, percentage-wise. So let's say you have $100,000 money coming in. If the Hilton only provided 20% of that $100,000, that's all they can withdraw. And so all I'm saying is be cautious about some of the underneath language.
And of anything, the ordinance is not very clear. The ordinance could be rewritten so that there would be less possible loopholes within the ordinance. Because I'm just saying this is money that was made available, that wasn't utilized, and it's a matter of who's going to use it now, and for what purpose is it going to get used. I'm not saying that to use it for capital is necessarily the best, but unless we ask, how are we ever going to know?
Well, you're gonna find out you can't pull that money out for things to do in the city, for example. That ain't gonna happen. We allocated approximately 33%. One to the police department, one to the city, and one to the hotels, 33 increment.
And that's what's happened.
And they have that 300,000 because we've limited them as to what they can spend. Even, we turn them down on several projects. Just be careful, that's all I'm suggesting.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
And part of it, Mr. Mayor, Lincoln is listed in the study is for 2021.
Yeah, and I would agree with it.
And the thought is, well, that might be more valuable to go to a capital item that's within the tourism district. I think we've planted about as many flowers as we can.
Well, they're not happy, and you read the report from Thibault, who was now the officer that was attached to the tourism board. I don't know what he's doing there with his dog, but he does a good job. And he he repeated several times that the group, which I am also part of, was hammering for more flowers. Because right now you've got these berms. And the first agreement was if it's along how the berm tails down, they were only authorized to do 20%, let's say, of the berm on either side, on 4 sides. And then they had weeds from a pretty nice looking group of flowers, weeds running all the way down the side. And they said, well, what is this? So that's why there are more things they feel can be done, better lighting. We had to switch lights this year. They went from colored Christmas tree lights to all white. Well, unless you got them at your house, they were wasted, but those things happen. I think they do a good job. We are the final authority to approve their budget, and we have been, and we've been doing it, and that won't change because of the agreement. The agreement clearly states that. And if I'm not mistaken, other TIF funds, if the time runs out, those funds that are still in that TIF have to be properly distributed. That could also mean the school district, it could also mean the library district, et cetera, not just the holder of the funds. So you're right.
It has to be distributed at a pro rata share.
Right, exactly.
To all of the taxing bodies within the TIF.
Right. But in the final analysis, we were able to get $1 million freed up for the city because of the incremental allocation of the reserve funds that were on hand.
Assuming it continues to come in.
I don't think they've changed much.
Well,
You can tell me more than I can tell you.
Well, I was surprised how much it increased this year. I didn't see any reason where we expected it to increase, yet it did.
That means we got more money too. The city also got more. We got the 33% share. All is good.
Solid Waste Fund. Again, this is another fund where the revenues are expected to increase slightly, 3.2%. The service charge to the general fund remains consistent with last year, and it's been consistent for years. On the expense side, as Joe has mentioned, we're looking to take that contract out to RFP to try and reduce the costs for that garbage service, which would make a lot of sense because those are extremely competitive contracts. Currently, there's about $600,000 of fund balance that's sitting out there, which, again, if we choose to, a portion of that could be moved to the capital improvements fund for capital projects. And that's one of the recommendations that Joe has made.
One of the things they had in their fund was that they would reimburse us, and they said the number, about $60,000 to $70,000 a year for recycling. Well, as you probably all know, they don't recycle newspapers anymore. You can throw them in your garbage can. You don't have to put it in your recycling situation. So there's potential of, we're going out for RFP this year, aren't we?
Yes, we'll be starting that work soon.
Special service areas 1 through 4. You'll remember, last year we did away with the tax levies for those special service areas. I will tell you, I was a little surprised when I saw with the first installment of tax bill that there was money flowing into special service areas number 1 through 4. I actually made a call to tax extensions at Cook County just to make sure that they were aware that those tax levies were supposed to be zero. They said they probably hadn't read all the ordinances yet, but at this point in time in Cook County, the first installment is based on 55% of the installment from the previous year. So they allocate the 55%. The money will flow as it distributed last year, which is why it was seen in special service areas 1 through 4 this year. But prior to the second installment, they said that those distributions would be recalculated so that there were no taxes being paid by the residents of special service areas 1 through 4, which is how it should be. I thought it was important that we made that comment so somebody didn't call in and say, I'm still paying property taxes in there, when in fact they will not be. In 3 of those 4 special service areas, there currently is a positive fund balance. Those positive fund balances should be utilized first to cover the cost of televising or sewer improvements within those districts. Because it should be we should choose to spend those dollars as quickly as possible to get those balances cleared out in those special service areas. Question?
Do you have more?
Yes.
Go,
Go.
keep going.
Parking fund. Revenue, of course, will increase based on the parking going up from $1.75 to $2. As of 4/30/17, the parking fund had received advances from the general fund and currently owes the general fund $410,000. As we discussed at numerous times, I don't believe there is a way that the parking fund will ever pay back the general fund. Maybe it was designed that it would never cover all of its costs. Maybe it was impossible to begin with. But my point is, as much as possible, we should attempt to control the expenses in the parking fund so that we do not continue to need to borrow money from the general fund in order to offset the cost of our parking operation. It's about the easiest way I can state it. Hopefully we'll be able to manage it better going forward. Next thing I have is the TIF fund for the Palatine Road. Up until this year, there was no increment flowing into this TIF fund. Cook County called us and said, you know, we have money for you here. We just need a bank account to put it in. So currently that increment that's coming in from the Palatine Road Fund so far this year has totaled $423,000. It is my belief that we can use that $423,000 of increment to offset the loans related to the arena land property and also for the advance, the $4.4 million that was advanced related to the arena fund. Again, if this $400,000 were to continue for at least the next 2 or 3 years, that goes a long way in paying back or retiring the debt that's sitting out there. Last page of our presentation covers 3 recommendations that we're asking the council to endorse. They are upon successful completion of the IDOT audit, staff recommends $900,000 be transferred from the MFT fund to the capital projects fund. Number 2, the recommendation is to transfer $530,000 from the solid waste fund to the capital improvements fund. And the last is to transfer $1.2 million of unassigned general fund balance from last year's operating budget to the capital projects fund for ongoing capital projects. And that's the presentation.
Hold on. Questions, anyone?
So the capital fund, if this is approved, is going to be at about $2.5 million. Am I reading it right?
It's going to increase by
2.5 million.
Yes, that is correct.
It's a one-time increase.
One-time increase. But still, it's $2.4 million. You were aware that.
Right,
was sitting
right.
there.
I understand it.
Yeah.
If I may?
Yes, sir.
We obviously still have questions about the $300,000 for the tourism budget. You're looking for acceptance of your budget on April 9th?
Yes, we'll follow up with a budget resolution memorializing these items.
Yes.
I guess in an effort to provide some direction, the question remains, is council in favor of taking that $300,000 and moving it into the capital project or capital fund? Or are we looking to leave it in the general fund and work with the tourism board? I don't know that you got any feel for that at all, did you?
The $300,000 is currently sitting in the tourism fund, and I'm not even venturing to say that I could remove it from there. What I'm trying to do is utilize it for capital improvements within the tourism.
So you're just trying to put a placeholder on it and
Yes.
say, okay, we're going to use this for road repairs, remediations, whatever.
I'm even willing to ask nicely.
All right, because I think it serves a purpose. I think that Apple Drive and Winkleman, and it certainly serves a purpose. There is obviously annual funding that comes along, and this is the overages from past years.
That hasn't been utilized.
Correct. Now, I don't necessarily think that, maybe we don't know what projects are on the books. And Mayor, you're part of that organization. Are there projects on the books that they're looking to fund, or?
Well, we have some input, we had some input from a landscape architect, and that's where the whole thing started. It was expensive. We got that going pretty well. And then the idea of lighting along Milwaukee Avenue, starting at the Hilton, and going hopefully at one point up to the Ramada Inn, because that's where our boundaries are, basically. Starts south of, just south of the Hilton and ends at the Tap House, the Ramada Inn. So there's always requests for money, and the people that haven't requested their money overall is minimal, in my opinion. They just didn't do a lot of good business, or business that qualified for advertising funds to be reimbursed to them. So I think we'd have to look at that and see where they're really at, because they always want something, and I don't blame them. It's their money. And at times, we took objection to them spending money. So we do have controlled it, but let's see what that $300,000 is all about. There, just as one point, there was a time that one of our public works people said that we should have the overpass with our name on it, Prospect Heights, over. I said, you wait and see what the IDOT and all the other people say about that, and the police department has to cordon the thing off to put a sign up and so on. So, I mean, there have been ideas floated beyond just the Christmas tree lighting. I have a question after you're done, Alderman Williamson.
No, right.
The IMET fund, are you familiar with the IMET fund? That we had $250,000 invested, and it was stolen. It was just taken by one of the people that worked there. And we were one of the lower investors there.
Well, it was a fraudulent investment.
Well, I don't think it was investment. I think it was stealing money is what it was. And I haven't heard much about that. We were to get a monthly report, or maybe every 3 months, from the attorneys that were handling that. And then there was talk about, why don't we have Tressler follow it up? And we had 2 people following up and 2 costs to pay. I believe Tressler walked from that some time ago. You may want to check that out, because there's nothing happening. And they were charging us to review. We got a free review from I think it's ARC, that gave us a free review every 2 months. So there's still money out there, whether that's going to be a receivable on our books or.
Well, I think
I'll get you in a minute.
In most cases, there was a fraudulent investment out there. A number of the balances that were held by municipalities in that fund were written off.
Right.
Some 100% written off. Some only wrote off half of them. I would have to go back and check.
See what we did.
To see what the balance is left.
Okay.
But I know since then, I believe there's been two distributions that IMET has made to repay a small portion back
Yes.
to all of the parties participating. I will check and see.
That's a very small amount, by the way, but
Yes.
Counselor, you have some opinion?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that I know one of my clients just got a check actually within the last 2 or 3 weeks or so. Again, very small amount, but, and I also understand that the quote, gentleman, unquote, involved in this just got jail time, right? Yeah.
25 years.
Is that the email you sent to me? Patel?
Yeah, I got that. The email came to me.
Oh, from Rich?
Yeah.
Oh, yes, okay. He was going off to Nicaragua or something.
Yeah.
To look for asylum, and they caught him.
Ecuador.
Ecuador, you're right, yes, thank you. All right, so anything else from you, Michael? Rest of the council, please.
The question about the investments, and that, you know, when I read that today, I had a question for you. I didn't know it would come up with as far as the budget. What are we doing, or what precautions are we taking not to be in this situation again? As far as the monies, you know, we get monies in, we're investing it someplace. I know that. And under what policy are we investing it? The way I understood the IMAT thing when it came to light, for me, is we give them the money and they do what the hell they want with it.
Well, the IMAT at the time was a AAA rated fund, which did not require collateralization on top of the U.S. Treasury investments that were being held there. So one would assume if you were holding all U.S. Treasuries, that they'd be fairly liquid and they'd retain their value. In this case, there was fraud related to one of them, where basically something IMET thought it owned didn't actually own, and it was a large investment.
So are we with them with our investments still?
No, not that.
Oh, nobody is.
Well, where are our investments going then?
In most cases, to local banks, going to Illinois Funds, which is a liquid money market fund that's run by the state's treasurer's office.
And that's where we're mandated to put it?
No, we could choose. It's just one of those things where up until just recently, there weren't a lot of competitive interest rates out there to place our investments. Now as interest rates are starting to go up, CD rates will be more competitive, but they have to be quite a bit more competitive in order for banks to be willing to pledge collateral to us in addition to the investment. We'll start to see that now that rates are climbing.
Maybe what we need to present, we, meaning the city, need to develop, I'm interested in your opinion, need to develop an investment policy that will govern what we're doing with our money.
We definitely, I would say we need to update the investment policy. I would tell you we need to do that. It's just first things first on the list.
No, I understand that, because that's interesting you say that, because when I came onto the council and I asked that question to see our investment policy, I got a, what are you talking about? Kind of thing.
In most cases, if nothing else, which we could provide you is, we could show you for all of the investments that the city of Prospect Heights holds, where they're placed. So you could see the different locations of them, or what the balance is that's sitting in any one place.
I would think at some point we should be looking at the policy, present policy, and looking and making some changes, or I'll just say updating it.
I'll add that.
Yeah, okay, you know, it's, I won't go any further right now.
Money management is a whole job to itself. I'm involved with 10 banks. The banks led yesterday's explosion of the rates in the stock market coming back, there's the banks that led the charge on that because they were making money. I know at our house, we paid, and we have 7 municipalities that we service, we paid 2.5%. It wasn't that long ago that we were paying 0.25 instead of 2.5, 0.25. So, but I think it's critical. I think it's good to know where our money is. At one point, I can tell you, most of our money, if not 80%, maybe higher, were all in one bank. At the time, it was $12 million. And I always thought that was kind of a mistake. That's long before Joe came, or even I came to my second term. So I think money management is really a critical issue.
Was the rest in the mattress?
Shoebox, Paul Powell.
Shoebox.
Paul Powell, he put his in the shoebox. All right, what's next?
Lastly, related to the budget, I'd like to thank all the department directors, because I can honestly tell you, they told me when I started here, they wanted to be involved in their budget, and I can tell you that they were, and they handled it, they took care of it, so.
Well, I think in unison, we can say your group is doing a good job. And as you discover more, you'll really get this thing straightened out, because it wasn't in such good shape until you came in. So congratulations to that. We're moving on to discussion selection, Joe. That's on 13. Everybody with me?
That's our workshop topic for tonight. What's listed is items that have been previously presented by council members.
Okay, yes, discussion of municipal election, staggered municipals. Kevin is working on that. He said he would have something at the next meeting. Discussion of commercial truck parking regulation. Dan filled us in on that. And the home rule discussion, which is hanging out there, and Treasurer Tibbetts asked that it be put on the next agenda if he gets back in time from his sojourn to warmer climates. So we have those 3 now. We're looking for 3 new ones or 2 new ones.
So I think we've got some good topics at present that focus on these things. Commercial trucks has been going on for several months.
Yes.
Municipal elections, Kevin's report will be coming up on that. And plus, for April, we will also have a continuation of finalizing the budget.
All right, can we move on to warrants then?
Okay. Regular expenses for this period total $133,042.27. March 16, 2018 payroll posting, $142,891.59. Police pension payments, $61,439.17. And total warrants of $337,373.03.
Motion to approve as reported.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Alderman Williamson.
Aye.
Alderman Rosenthal.
Aye.
Alderman Dolick.
Aye.
Alderman Messer.
Motion passes 4-0. There is no executive session tonight because the topic we had hoped to cover, we don't have the paperwork for. That's coming in hopefully in the next
meeting.
By next meeting, right? In that case, I have a motion to adjourn, please.
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Amen. Thank you, everyone.